From the Evening Standard in London, I'm Dan Kilpatrick, and this is The Leader.
We climbed the highest mountain last season, what we have done, but no, I don't think so. It will be possible to do what we have done last season.
I really believe the best is yet to come. It's an exciting time to be an England player for sure, but we have to earn that right every day.
Harry Kane's leaving Spurs and the Lionesses face Colombia without Lauren James. The drama of an incredible weekend of football's begun before a ball's even been kicked. The Evening Standard celebrating the start of the Premier League with a different front page for every London team in the competition. And the sports team's taken over the Leader podcast for the day. Simon Collings joins us from Australia, where he's been covering the Women's World Cup, and with me in London is Nizaar Kinsella. So let's start with Harry Kane. He's on the way to Germany as we speak to complete a move to Bayern Munich after a protracted summer of negotiations. Niz, is Bayern a slightly underwhelming move? Am I wrong to think that, or do you think this makes total sense for Kane?
Yeah, I think it might be. You know, you look at what Harry Kane can do. He's been the best player in the Premier League maybe for the last 5 years, certainly before Erling Haaland arrived. So to see him sort of go to a lesser league, I think that's where the shock comes from, right? So, you know, it's going to be less competitive than the Premier League. You expect him to really dominate in the best team in Germany. That's all well and good, but you kind of felt maybe he'd have gone to a team that's slightly more competitive within the Premier League that could maybe challenge Man City. So that's probably where we're a bit disappointed. And also, I think that maybe we wanted to see Harry Kane sort of mount a challenge with another club against Manchester City, who are sort of increasingly dominating the division. So that's a bit of where we kind of sit a little bit, some of us, on the Harry Kane issue. And what a shame to lose him from English football as well, one of our best players. But yeah, I guess the allure of trophies and one of Germany's biggest clubs was just too much. Yeah,
Kane spent most of Thursday agonising over this move. It looked at one point like he might actually stay at Spurs, which would have been really strange after a summer of negotiations. Normally when a club reaches an agreement, it's a formality that the player will move, but Kane really thought about this, and I did wonder if he might run down his deal as Spurs have the pick of clubs across Europe next summer on a free transfer. Maybe he could have gone to Real Madrid and played with Kylian Mbappe. As you said, maybe he could have gone to United and helped them challenge City, or even City themselves if Haaland was to go elsewhere, for instance, Real. Simon, does this make sense for Spurs financially, though? I mean, they've got big money, albeit not huge money in today's market, but they've packed Kane off to Germany where he can't score goals against them.
Yeah, financially, I think it makes perfect sense. And I always, in the back of my mind, was thinking Daniel Levy, the businessman, will surely see the big money and the fact that the player's going to go for free and think, you know, we've got to take this. The issue I would have with it is the timing of it. You know, we're recording this the day before the Premier League season starts, and you've hired someone in Ange Postecoglou. He's a rebuild manager, and his rebuild is now starting the day before the season.
Any guesses as to what the first question's going to be about?
No idea, mate. Good turnout, though. We had to cancel it last week. No one was interested in what I had to say, so it's best Harry speaks for himself in terms of the decision, but look, there's no doubt he's one of the greats of this football club, and that doesn't change. You know, his record speaks for itself. His standing amongst our supporters stands for itself. You know, I'm only new in the building, mate, but I'm certainly not a spokesman for this football club in the sense of, you know, proclaiming people's status. But I think it's fairly evident that you know, Harry Kane will always be one of the greats of this football club.
I think if this had been done at sort of, you know, the start of July, which, you know, sort of West Ham did with Declan Rice, I think it would have made more sense. For me, it's the timing is the big issue, and I think for Spurs that'll be the difficult thing. How do you go about starting a season when you've lost Kane literally 24 hours before you kick the first ball?
Yeah, I agree on that. And not the first time Daniel Levy's done a late deal to almost hamstring a manager on the eve of the season. I remember Dimitar Berbatov way back in 2008. He was sold on deadline day, which was even worse. I'm glad you mentioned Declan Rice, Simon. Let's talk a little bit about Arsenal. Obviously, they got the Rice deal wrapped up nice and early. They've done some really encouraging business. Looks like David Raya, the Brentford goalkeeper, is going to be next. They've also got Jurrien Timber, a right back from Ajax, I believe. Can they go one better this year, do you think, and overhaul Man City?
I definitely think they can. And if, for me, I did the piece in the paper today about pressure on Arteta feels very different to what he's had before. He's been in the spotlight a lot at Arsenal, but the level of backing he's had, I mean, it's quite ridiculous, really. Over 200 million spent, all his targets done before they flew to the US in the middle of July. His number one targets in positions. The level of backing and support he had has been absolutely ruthless. We talk a lot about Chelsea's big spending, but Arsenal spent under Arteta's like over 600 million now.
I think it's excitement. This is what we want to be, and building a team that has the belief and the quality to be fighting for those places. And the competition this year is going to be even harder than last year. You see a lot of teams, the movements that they make, and you have to expect something different of them. So we're going to have to be much better still than last year, and this is the way we are preparing to try to seek for that.
So I think that for him, it's probably going to be a different season in terms of fans. And us as journalists are going to expect Arsenal to be competing for the title, because you look at that squad now, there's competition all over. Declan Rice, Thomas Partey, Timber, Ben White, Kai Havertz, coming in. I think David Raya sums it up almost though. Aaron Ramsdale, I think, was very good last season, and now he's got the Brentford's brilliant goalkeeper competing for him. So, yeah, I think Arsenal can compete, and I think fans should expect them to compete.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. It's a different kind of pressure on Arteta this year, isn't it? I mean, he almost had a free pass last year from the media. I mean, you'll be covering Arsenal home, away and abroad this season, but there wasn't a lot of criticism when Arsenal fell away at the end of last term, because I think they'd overachieved so much already, but it'll be different this year. There'll be a lot of expectation on them. You mentioned Chelsea. Niz, let's talk a little bit about the Blues. Hard to know what to make of them. There's so much flux going on. I mean, they're still making big moves in the transfer market, even as we kind of speak. Mauricio Pochettino's in.
I feel really good. I am so excited to come back to the Premier League. Really busy because it's a period that we are so busy with the pre-season and everything. It's obvious that we are looking for. No, but it's obvious because of when you look the squad and when you compare with the last season. Too many midfielder leave the squad, and I think we have different options. We are working hard to try to see, working really hard, but always being very respectful with all the names.
I mean, how's their rebuild going? Do you think they're ready for the start of the new season?
Well, Dan, I think that Mauricio Pochettino has done as well as he can do with what he's got. You looked at pre-season and the team looked much fitter. They had a clear identity. They won the inaugural Premier League Summer Series, going unbeaten across their 5 pre-season games. But in the sort of last week or so, since that sort of pre-season tour of the US has ended, and Nkunku's got injured for 4 months, which concerns me greatly. I thought that he would be one of the main players for Chelsea this season and will really look good in pre-season. So they go into that Liverpool game without him, and also they've done some decent business. Nicholas Jackson looks the part. A few of the others, Andre Santos in the squad, Malo Gusto. They all look pretty good, but I think that the summer was going to be defined by the real marquee signing, which I thought was going to be Moises Caicedo. And in the last 24 hours, we've sort of seen Liverpool steal a march after Brighton did an auction, a midnight auction on Thursday night to see who would win it. And Liverpool somehow have outbid Chelsea 110 million for the main transfer target, Chelsea, that they've been trying to sign for 2 months. So that also concerns me. And Chelsea really look short in midfield. So there's a few things that concern me. I think that Pochettino will improve Chelsea, but let's not forget they're coming from a very low base, a 12th place finish. What can they achieve? Can they compete with a team like Arsenal? The way Simon describes Arsenal, the confidence he speaks with, I don't have that for Chelsea. And there are a few things that concern me. And hey, we're on the 11th of August now, on the eve of the Premier League season. And I think that the team's still being transformed in front of Mauricio Pochettino's eyes. And it remains to be seen what it looks like on September the 1st when the transfer window closes.
Let's go to the ads. Hit the follow button on your podcast provider to get the leader delivered to you every day at 4 p.m. Let's talk about the Women's World Cup. Simon, you're in Australia covering the Lionesses predominantly. They haven't been that convincing so far. They've got a quarterfinal against Colombia tomorrow, albeit without Lauren James, who's got a 2-match ban for her sending off in the last 16. Do Do you think they're kind of coming to the ball at the right time? It's never good to peak too early in tournaments, or are you concerned by what you're seeing from them so far?
It's been very different to the Euros, where it kind of felt like England just, were riding an absolute crest of the wave and sort of soaring through the tournament and getting better with each game. The performances have been a bit more up and down here, and the players have been, they've been questioned about it, rightly so. And they have sort of stressed the point you made there that, at a tournament, it's results that matter. And England do sort of have the look of a team that could just get their way to the final. But defensively, they're excellent. They've conceded one goal, which was a contentious penalty against China. Mary Earps in goal has been brilliant. Rightfully was voted the best goalkeeper in the world last year.
We're constantly looking to improve and drive performance and drive our standards. And I think that's the best thing about it. We're not sitting here, of course, happy that we're here and grateful that we're here, but we're not satisfied. We're not done. And there's still more levels we want to go.
And as much as they're not playing this sort of scintillating football that got us all hooked during the Euros, they are playing quite good tournament football. So I think for them, that will give them a lot of confidence. I think Colombia will be a difficult game tomorrow. There are a lot of Colombians in Sydney, as I've found out during the week when they were playing their game. All the bars were absolutely packed. They're expecting a sold-out crowd here, 75,000, and I think the vast majority of those will be Colombians. So it'll be very different to last summer, where Lionesses had that fantastic support.
And as I mentioned, England will be without Lauren James for tomorrow's game against Colombia, and in the semi-final if they get there after FIFA extended her ban for that stamp against Nigeria in the last round. She was really the player of the group stage, and in some respects. How big a loss is this, Simon?
Yeah, it's very big. After that sort of group stage, that China game where she was absolutely fantastic, 2 goals, 3 assists. A lot of us journalists out here were sort of saying, this can be her tournament. We've seen, reminded me of sort of Wayne Rooney, Euro 2004, that young player just absolutely taking it by storm. And it came sort of crashing down against Nigeria. And for England, the attack has been so sort of based around Lauren James. Even that the switch to the back three, which they did, was about getting Lauren James in that number 10 role, getting her on the ball, creating chances. And I think for Vegan, it might see her tinker again against Colombia. It wouldn't surprise me if they go back to a back 4, get Kira Walsh on the ball a bit more, because it didn't really suit her, that back 3. And yeah, I think the good news is, if England do get to a final, which I'm very much hoping they do, and I'm sure the fans are as well, that Lauren James will be back, because I think it would have been a great shame if her last image from this World Cup was that stamp against Nigeria.
Yeah, well, you can catch all of Simon's coverage of tomorrow's quarterfinal and the rest of the tournament on the Standard website, and of course in the paper. I'll be following Spurs this season predominantly. Niz will be following Chelsea. Simon will get back on Arsenal when he's back from down under. And of course, we do West Ham, Palace, Fulham, Brentford, and our clubs in the Football League as well. And that's the leader. Go to standard.co.uk/football for our latest Premier League and World Cup action. The podcast is back on Monday at 4 p.m.